Hello Muskegon, hello visitors, hello tourists, hello friends of the Taste of Muskegon. I'm Chef Lakeisha, and today we're making Julia Hackley's Feather Cake. Now listen, the name Hackley is synonymous with the city Muskegon. Hackley this, Hackley that, Hackley. Well, we have Miss Julia's recipe. It's only 132 years old. I'm gonna blow the dust off. So, listen, let me tell you something about Miss Julia, okay? Miss Julia was definitely a minimalist, because, honey, how are we going to get a cake out of these ingredients? Just, I think I was set up by the team. Nevertheless, thank God I'm a preacher because I make miracles happen. Hallelujah. So let's go. Miss Julia's Feather Cake. Now, listen. This is 132 years old. We have hid these ingredients for 132 years, bringing them to you today, 2022. Now, never a better time to highlight the highlight of Muskegon, the Hackley family. Ready? So we're gonna see what's in this box, okay?
Let's check it out.
Aaron, we're gonna try to make a cake. Oh, Lord. I promise you, this box is out of the 1800s, right? So Juju does not have a lot of information on here. We're gonna do her basic recipe, and then, we're gonna add a little soul to it because that's what I'm here to do, right? I promise you I won't put turkey knuckles in there though, okay? So we're gonna go, now listen. Rule number 1 with Chef Lakeisha, she does not use measuring cups, but Juju did, so we're gonna do what Juju did, okay? So we have our measuring cups here. Go with our bowl, we'll just put this over here. We're gonna have Aaron do all the stirring because, yeah, what did Macho Man Randy A. Savage used to say, 24-inch python. She has the pythons over here. So we're going to do that. Now, Miss Julia, I know that you didn't have Pam cooking spray. It's okay, girl. I got you. It's okay. We're going to use Pam cooking spray today. I'm assuming this was a bundt cake. She left us, you have to be an intellectual to understand this recipe because she left us with very little information. So you have to be creative. So we're going to use bundt cake tin. Something they had back in the 1800s that we still have is sugar. Sugar. Oh, is that leaking on you, Lisa?
Leaking out, yeah.
Sorry about that. We got some butter flavoring. I'll explain more later. Some vanilla flavoring. Eggs. Now, when you make a cake, your eggs should always be room temperature. Why? I don't know. All the bakers say that, so that's what I do. Who knows? Now, Julia's recipe calls for sweet milk. Sweet milk in 2022 to us would probably be condensed milk or evaporated milk. No, Juju was talking about heavy whipping cream. I don't know. We're going to use it. Let's see what happens. Let's see. Some salt. It's going to work, trust me. Some baking powder. A stick of butter. And a sifter. Ready, ladies?
Let's do it.
Let's get it done. Now listen, honey. Here's where I got confused. Miss Julia wants us to use a tablespoon of butter for a whole cake.
It doesn't seem like enough.
No, it sounds like a biscuit. And even you put butter on top of biscuits afterwards. So I don't know what Julia was doing, but let's just say this recipe is good on your diet, right? So a tablespoon of butter is only that much.
Yes.
I don't understand, Juju, but that's okay. I trust you. So we're going to put in a tablespoon of butter. Just a tablespoon. Don't do what I'm doing. Don't add more because Julia did not add all this butter. But I'm just saying I don't want a dry cake. So, so you ready, 24-inch pythons? So these are not room temperature enough. So our butter is softened. Here we're gonna add ingredients, the liquid before we add the dry. Sometimes people combine them separately. Julia didn't say do that, so we're not gonna do that. We're gonna have a cup of sugar, and Lisa, if you wanna pour a cup of sugar. While Lisa's doing that, I'm gonna get our bundt pan prepared. And the way you do that, you liberally spray your pan. And this is something my grandmother taught me. After you spray it liberally, you still wanna add some flour. So this gives you extra security so your cake won't stick. Now, sometimes you can buy pans and they'll say non-stick. Still follow this method because they still stick, right? So there we go. And then I'm going to teach you a little secret. So after you put the flour in the pan, All you do is put the extra, put it right there in the bowl. It's gonna work, I promise you. I wouldn't lead you wrong. Okay, so Lisa has given us a cup of sugar. We're gonna add that to the butter. And Aaron is stirring with the 24-inch pythons. Now this recipe is very easy. Miss Hackley only said 1 egg. 1 egg. 1 egg. Maybe this was a feather cake because it's very light and it's, I don't know.
There's not really any explanation
Yeah,
in the
like,
cookbook that we were
we
able
would have
get
to go
this.
back to like 1880, which, you know, I guess that would be okay because, honey, the hair and the makeup and the outfits back then was fabulous. So I could go back to the 1800s, like do a whole Bridgerton type, you know, thing. Nevertheless, we'll stick. So Miss Julia said 1 egg. There you go, Miss Julia, 1 egg. And we're doing this by hand. I know you have a KitchenAid. I know she's sitting over there sparkling, waiting to be used because you don't use it like you say you're going to do when you bought it for $400. Nevertheless, Julia didn't have that. So we're using arm grease. Now it says 1 egg, 1 sugar, 1 cup, 1 tablespoon of butter, a 1/2 cup of milk. Again, back to these measuring cups. So we're just going to fill that up halfway. Because who's going to mess up 2 measuring cups just so you can say you had a half? That doesn't, no, we're not going to do that. That's dishes. Okay, so anyway, here's our 1/2 cup of heavy cream. How's the stirring coming along?
Well, it's good.
You good?
I got the muscles.
It looks good. So the recipe calls for sifted flour. Thank God that in 2022 we have flour that's already sifted for us. It's called soft silk or swan's cake flour. We're going to use this. Sorry, Miss Julia, I'm not going to sift no flour now, honey, but I understand what you were trying to do. So technically, a dry measuring cup and a wet measuring cup, you would, this is Chef Lakeisha. I'm about saving dishes, right? So we're just going to add this cup of flour, and we're going to do that right here. Now, here's what you need to know. When you use a cake flour, a pre-made cake flour, you need to add an additional 1/4 cup of that flour because it's lighter than the standard flour that the recipe would call for. So if the recipe calls for 1 cup of flour, you would use 1 1/4 cup. See, I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I do my research.
Right? Is the sifted important to make it feathery?
Absolutely. So if you have a sifter, you can use standard flour, but sifting is important in any cake to make it airy. Because, you know, have you ever had a pound cake and you tried to swallow it and you needed like a whole gallon of milk? No, we don't want that. So cake flour helps. But yes, great question, Lisa. I just love you. Okay, so there's a cup and a 1/4 cup. I don't use measuring cups, but I know what a 1/4 of a cup looks like. So there we go.
Are you sure you do?
I'm never sure, but I'm going to convince you, I'm sure. Okay, look, we look all bakey. We have flour everywhere. How's your arm coming along? Now, isn't that a little thick for a cake?
It's a little thick.
Yeah. These were feather biscuits. We're turning it into a cake. Nevertheless, Miss Julia, we trust you. We know it's going to be delicious. So we're going to do what does it say? A teaspoon full of baking. We don't know. It's okay. It was written 132 years ago. She didn't know either. So this is a 1/2, so we'll just do 2 of these. Right?
You're right about the pythons. It's getting a little
I know, right? Lisa, get over there. Help the lady out. See, so I have a trick to the thickness. So Miss Hackley says to flavor to taste. So since our flavoring is liquidous, we're going to use that amount to kind of make it a little bit more pliable. If I just made up that word, I don't know it. So Miss Hackley said put a pinch of salt in there. Well, in order for you to get a pinch, you have to put it in your hand and pinch it. Listen. In the African-American culture, we call it a tainch. If you've ever watched my cooking show, I put in a tainch of everything. A tainch is a painch in Miss a tainch is a painch in Miss Hackley's language. So, right. So people don't really understand why we add salt to cookie batter, cake batter. We add the salt simply because salt activates every other flavor that we put in there. Did you know that? You have to have salt to have sweet. See, a lot of people don't know that. This girl is a genius, a graduate of Reese Puffer High School. Go Rockets. Okay, lemon flavoring. Now, this is where I fell in love with you, Miss Julia. It says flavor to taste. Well, you know, I'm a minimalist, so I can't tell you how much vanilla I just put in there. But trust me, it's going to help this cake, right, Lisa? Because it's easier to...
vanilla.
Extra vanilla. Like, you should smell your cake before it starts to bake. That's my rule of thumb.
This is like frosting.
See? We made it so much better. And I have a little bit of butter flavoring. I'm adding this to enhance the taste. If I had lemon juice, I'd add lemon as well. But we're gonna try to be as authentically Hackley as possible. So, we've already covered our pan with the baking spray. We've added flour on the bottom. Doesn't matter if it's cake flour or sifted flour, that part doesn't matter. So we're gonna put it into our pan and we're gonna turn, and I'm gonna teach you some secrets about homemade cake that you need to know when you're making it, okay? So Lisa, if you wanna just tilt it, and as you can see, the consistency is pretty thick. It's like a pound cake. So we're gonna just put it in there. Y'all didn't know Chef Lakeisha could bake too, honey? Yes, I do it all. I make dog food too. I'm good at this stuff. Now, before you put the cake in the oven, we're gonna just shake it up. And this is something my grandmother taught me to do. You just drop your cake a little bit. So you know when back in the old days when your parents would say, don't walk, I have a cake in the oven, it's gonna fall or whatever. Doing this already settles your cake. Another thing my grandmother taught me. So we've been preheating the oven at 350 degrees, which is the standard temperature that you bake most everything at. However, initially when we put the cake into the oven, we're gonna turn it down to 250 degrees for the first 15 minutes. This helps your cake cook from the inside out, because when you're making a from scratch made cake, typically you have to stick that fork down in there to make sure it's done all the way, not like a box cake. So when you turn the oven down, that allows the cake to start cooking from the inside, and then 15 minutes in, we'll then turn it back up to 350 to brown it.
I have never heard that tip. That's awesome.
I'm telling you.
We're learning.
I know what I'm talking about sometimes. Okay, anyway, so we're gonna put this in the oven, 250 degrees. When it comes out, you're gonna see Juju's feather cake. Now, Juju, from the taste of this batter, I'm very optimistic about how amazing this is about to be. So we'll be right back. So we're back and we're ready to show you Mrs. Hackley's feather cake. Now, in 1890 was when this recipe was created. We don't know if it was handed down from her family. So this is all that we have based upon the recipe that we received. Now is where it gets soul-filled because, you know, this cannot be the final result. Nevertheless, it's beautiful, Mrs. Hackley, so let's see. So here we are, we're gonna flip that. So this is what Mrs. Hackley's cake would have looked like. Well, okay, so like they didn't have feathers and dust and all the glitter and stuff that I would probably put on the cake back then. But I'm gonna show you how to make a quick frosting, how to make a pretty garnish for the cake. And my two beautiful assistants, Vanna 1 and Vanna 2, are gonna help me, right? So Vanna number 2 has a banana over here. She's gonna thin slice the banana. But Vanna number 1 has some frozen fruit, right? We're gonna use that. I have some powdered sugar. I'm just gonna put a little bit into a bowl, okay? And I'm gonna teach you how to make a quick frosting. Very, very easy. So just about, I don't know, a cup and a half of powdered sugar. We can repurpose the heavy cream that we already used. What are we putting in? Just about a capful. Not even a capful, like a half of a quarter of an eighth of a teaspoon or so, maybe. Because we want, okay, we're using 2 caps. I was wrong. So we're gonna use 2 capfuls to start with, and we're gonna begin to just mix that around. Can you throw some vanilla flavoring in there, Lisa? Very good. How much vanilla flavoring did you put in there?
A teaspoon, maybe 1.5 teaspoons.
I knew she would know her accuracy. I, on the other hand, so you play around with the frosting a little bit until it gets to the thickness that you desire. So I just keep adding powdered sugar until it gets to where I want it to be. It will look a little brownish because of the vanilla flavoring. That's okay. So we're going to enhance the feather cake, and this just a little. See? People make you think that you need all of these apparatuses to make, you know, no, you don't. Erin has done an amazing job cutting up some banana for us, so I would just follow the circumference. See, I know big words.
You
circumference
do.
of the cake. You have some frozen fruit, and let's just stick it in the middle because we're gonna make it look fancy Nancy, as I would say. So the last step, we're gonna get some powdered sugar. We're gonna put it into our sifter, And we're gonna sprinkle a little bit of fairy dust to give all the good energy and all the good vibes and all the good love to, you wanna do it?
Sure.
Okay. And then we would take it and just see how pretty that is. And you definitely want to purpose to put the powder. You were supposed to be doing this. How did I take over?
It's all good.
Okay.
You're doing a beautiful job.
So we're gonna cut it and plate it for you, show you how we would present it. But this is, let me get this out the way so Juju can shine. This is Juju's feather cake, Soulfield style. Miss Julia Hackley, you are wonderful. You were before your time. You are still impacting us some 132 years later. We love you, girl. We're Muskegonites, right?
And you can get this recipe at Taste of Muskegon, June 10th and 11th at Hackley Park.
Taste of Muskegon rocks. Be there. I'll be there. Trust you me. I love Taste of Muskegon. That's just mine.
And the Hackley and Hume Historic Site will have the recipes at our table from noon to 4 on June 11th in the park, and we'll be playing historic games and have all kinds of fun activities to check out. So we hope to see you there.